President.
The senator from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, it's no secret that I oppose President Biden's tax proposal. I think it's bad policy that would undercut growth and derail American prosperity. But one of the worst parts of the President's plan is the provision requiring financial institutions to report their customers' transactions of $600 or greater to the IRS. That means anytime an American pays a bill, makes a deposit, transfers funds, or makes a purchase of $600 or more, their bank, credit union, or financial institution would be forced to report that data to the IRS. Opposition to this proposal is deep and bipartisan. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, no one wants the IRS looking over their shoulder every time they make a financial transaction. The IRS doesn't efficiently use the data it collects now. Why in the world would we give them more information? If the IRS has reason to believe you're not paying all that you owe in taxes, they have the ability to audit you. They don't need any more private financial data on any of us. The bulk data collection they're proposing will do nothing to close the so-called tax gap. All it does is violate the liberty of every freedom-loving American who values their financial property. The proposal would dramatically increase IRS audits of working Americans. The overwhelming majority of people the IRS would look into as a result of this policy would not have done a single thing wrong. But when the IRS starts snooping, it will cost you big money. That means hiring a high-priced attorney, an accountant who will bleed you dry. President Biden claims his proposal would only impact the rich, but middle-class families are the ones who will ultimately pay the price. Additionally, the IRS has a history of data security failures. Just earlier this year, the confidential tax information of over a dozen well-known Americans leaked from the agency and was published in the press. That was unacceptable and unlawful, but nothing was done to hold the IRS accountable. But this is, unfortunately, nothing new. Under President Biden's watch, when he was vice president, conservative groups and individuals were targeted for aggressive audits. As recently as this year, a Texas-based charity was denied tax-exempt status because the IRS considered the charity too close to Republicans and too close to Christianity. And folks, that is pitiful. Providing the IRS with massive amounts of financial transaction data will only make it easier for them to target groups or individuals they disagree with. If anything, we need to be reining in the IRS and holding officials accountable who go after taxpayers for political reasons. The outcry from voters has been strong and swift. Some of my Democrat colleagues are feeling the heat from their constituents and are starting to walk back the president's proposal. The American people have them on the run. Now, Democrats in Congress are talking about only requiring transactions of $10,000 or more to be reported to the IRS. Whilst fewer Americans would be directly impacted by this threshold, we would still feel the broader negative effects. That being said, on Tuesday of this week, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, the president's top economic advisor, defended the Biden plan and doubled down on the $600 IRS proposal. Regardless of whether the Democrats settle on $600 or $10,000 threshold, every American will suffer. That's because our community banks and credit unions will be overwhelmed. I mean overwhelmed with a tidal wave of compliance data. Small banks and credit unions won't be able to afford to hire the staff that they're going to need, forcing them to close their doors in a lot of rural and minority areas. And for Americans, including many minorities, living in rural communities across the country, these small banks and credit unions are a focal point for the community. They provide the money folks need to buy their first home or car. They fuel the economic development provide good-paying jobs, and pump resources back into these rural communities. If these community banks and credit unions close, it would cut off access to capital for millions of Americans and communities, and they would suffer. Livelihoods would be destroyed. That's why I, along with my colleague from Florida, Senator Rick Scott, have introduced a bill prohibiting the IRS from creating, implementing, or administering a financial reporting regime that would require financial institutions or individuals to report data or financial transactions or account balances to the IRS. To be clear, my legislation does not touch the Bank Secrecy Act or any of the regulations or either implemented or issued under that act. My bill has been endorsed by the American Bankers Association, the Independent Community Bankers of America, National Association of Federally Insured Credit Unions, the Credit Union National Association, Heritage Action of America, the League Southeastern Credit Unions, and the Alabama Bankers Association. These organizations and their members know that if President Biden's proposal goes through, banking as we know it will end. Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to yield the floor to my distinguished colleague from Florida, Mr. Scott.
Mr. President,